Hey guys, what's going on? Tyrauku here. In today's video, I want to talk about some 6-star champions that I've taken that I regret. Now, to preface this, I don't necessarily regret taking these champions, but having a title and thumbnail that says 6-star champions that I used to use a decent amount, but I no longer use very much because their value for my account has fallen off as my account has grown is a little bit too long of a title. I don't think you guys would have clicked on that. So a thumbnail saying 6-star regrets and a title similarly worded sounds much better, and it gets the point across. Now, these champions that I'm going to talk about today, they're not bad per se, but they are champions whose value for my account has drastically fallen off. And then there are a few of them who, honestly, I don't see any situation whatsoever where it would be valuable to take these champions to 6-star. One of them specifically, I took to 6-star. I actually made a video on this champion, and his use is so niche and he doesn't even bring that much to the table. He is one champion who, if I could go back, I would get rid of his chickens for sure and not take him to 6-star. But I'm gonna go through some champions who, if I could go back, maybe I wouldn't 6-star them. Or at least at this point in my account, I would definitely not be 6-starring them. And I'm also gonna give you guys some ideas as to, if you're considering 6-starring these champions, give you kind of a filler about how far they're gonna last you and if they're gonna be good for you for very long. Now, these are all gonna be epic champions. If you enjoy this video, let me know. I can do a series on my legendaries and maybe even rares. Granted, rares I'm very careful about 6-starring. Maybe I'll do a video about my 3 soulbound bowlers who are now 6-star, but we'll see. Also, guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It helps out a ton, helps the channel grow. Leave a like, leave a comment about which champions you regret taking to 6-star. I do have some legendaries that I definitely regret, like I don't even need them. But we'll get into that maybe a different video if you guys enjoy this one. So the first champion I want to talk about is going to be Lua. Now, Lua is a champion who I had on my original account, which I did a video yesterday actually talking about my very first account, and Lua was my nuker on that account. I didn't have any other good damage dealing champion, so I brought Lua up. But on this account, my main account, Lua just doesn't bring the same impact that she did on the other account. Lua, don't get me wrong, is a very, very good nuke champion. She has a few drawbacks though. This first ability can't be a crit when it does the AoE stuff, as far as I'm aware, unless they've changed that. So it attacks one enemy, which hits pretty hard, but deals 50% of the inflicted damage to all enemies if this attack is critical. So it hits the one person, deals 50% of the damage, which isn't that much damage. Decent ability, but honestly, I would almost just prefer this for arena situation to not even be AoE, because if you have any enemy slept, she's going to wake them up, which it kind of feels bad sometimes. But for PvE content, dungeons, faction wars, everything like that, solid ability. But I don't use Lua anywhere. I don't use her in faction wars. I don't use her in arena, nowhere anymore, because I think there's just better options if you have them. So her A2, this is what really shines about her, A2 and the A3. The A3 is basically a faceless mixed with a cold heart. I mean, she has a ignore shield, ignores block damage. She doesn't ignore defense, so she has the downside there, but she ignores shield and block damage, so you could take her against Krisks, which Krisks are not super popular. My Madam also ignores shield because she just takes those shields right off. But in general, Lua, this A3 ability, it does hit very hard, but other than decreased turn meter, it's not incredible. Now, if you have her and you don't have Cold Heart, she's a very good substitute for turn cooldown. Definitely not bad there, but doesn't have the max HP damage that Cold Heart does bring. And there's so many champions who do turn meter reduction. I just don't see Lua bringing the same impact that she used to. Now, this A2 ability, I think, still does have some value because she does do a decent amount of damage, especially if you have decreased defense and weaken on the enemy, or just one or the other. She does bring a good hit. She doesn't have to wear lifesteal because she'll get basically a full HP heal from this in most PvE content. But overall, I did mastery her. I built her. I've used Lua quite a bit. But Lua is one champion who I can safely say that serves basically no use for my account whatsoever. And there's really nowhere I would use her. Granted, my account does have a good amount of voids, dark elves for the secret rooms in Doom Tower. Anything where she would possibly fit in, I have better options than Lua. So if you're looking to use her, I wouldn't expect to use her for that long. She can help you out in some early game content. She is very squishy as well. So as a champion, it used to be pretty good. I used to enjoy her, but honestly, I don't use her at all anymore. So that's that with Lua. The second champion I want to talk about is one that I a little bit more regret, because the reason why I built her, which is Darkelaine, was to counter Torments. Now, she does do that very well, but I have Siphi. Siphi counters Torments for me, and there's really no reason to bring Darkelaine. Darkelaine is solid for faction wars and is solid for countering Torments in the arena. But if you're not countering Torments in the arena or doing faction wars, like trying to speed it up, you don't have good damage dealers and undead, if neither one of those fits you, you probably have no use for this champion whatsoever. Let me know. Has anybody here used Darkelaine seriously in dungeon content, as like, and successfully? Like, does she bring something so beneficial that you couldn't use somebody else? Maybe in the Doom Tower waves against the Torments there. But other than a Torment counter and Faction Wars, does she bring much? Basically, what you're looking for is whenever a champion is frozen, she basically procs the Death's Majesty. She also instantly removes any freeze debuffs on this champion, so she just nukes Torments after they do their freeze. Works out very, very good. You get her to do a lot of damage, and she works out perfectly for that one specific role. But as a champion who, if I was more mindful about investing resources, would I have done it? No, definitely not, because honestly, she just doesn't carry the weight and progress very well with my account. And at this point in the game, she brings a decent hitting A1, maybe at best. The max HP reduction doesn't really matter because it's so low. And an A2, that places a decreased speed. Sylar does the same thing. So personally, Darkelaine, not one of my favorite 6-star champions. Like I said, she does have some uses against those very niche situations. If you don't have an answer for Tormund, maybe you can try her out. My third champion I'm going to talk about is a Colt Brawler. Now, Colt Brawler is good, okay? A Colt Brawler does good poisons. So don't get me wrong. Don't be saying, oh, so-and-so said a Colt Brawler is amazing, one of the best poisoners in the game. Yes, but outside of his clan boss usage and poisoning bosses and maybe the dragon, which even on dragons, he's weak affinity on some stages, which is not very good. Clan boss and faction wars, maybe. He's solid there, right? And he has a block revive, which is pretty conditional. He needs a bunch of debuffs on himself. Gets a block revive, an extra turn, yada, yada, yada. It's pretty good. I believe it's if he has 5 or more debuffs. I'm not 100% sure because honestly, it's been a while since I used him. But either way, this does hit pretty hard. I'm pretty sure his A2 ability does hit very hard, but he doesn't have a whole lot of utility outside of poisons. And since there are so many more poisoners in the game, every time a new poisoner is added, Taragi, Venom Mage, Vizier, not a poisoner, but extends poisons. Every time a new poisoner is added, a Colt Brawler is slowly losing his big impact that he used to have. Frozen Banshee was added. Colt Brawler went down the list a little bit. The benefit that he does have is he has long poisons, right? So his poisons last for 4 turns, which is very, very good. Has a 70% chance of placing a 5% poison on a random enemy for 4 turns at the start of each turn. It's very good. That's a great ability. But once you get later in the game, you're constantly keeping your poisons up. If you run a counterattack team, you don't really need him because your poisons are going to stay up anyways. So for my account, a Colt Brawler basically has no value anymore. I don't use him in Faction Wars because he's just slow for the runs. So he's a champion who early game, mid game, he can do a lot of work for you and help you out in a lot of areas. But as you start progressing later on, you'll probably never use this guy ever again. Like the other champions, let me know. Do you have a use for Colt Brawler and you're still late game? Have you used him successfully? So the fifth, well, no, let me learn how to count real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth champion. So I got 6 I want to talk about. One of them's kind of like a side, has a little bit more niche uses, but let's get past that. So the fourth champion is Battle Sage. Now, Battle Sage was another champion, which is kind of funny because I brought 2 champions up. Maybe I just need to be more mindful about who I 6-star. I brought 2 champions up to counter Tormund, but I have Siphi, who counters Tormund perfectly. So Battle Sage is another champion who works very well against Tormund and Hedgie. I think Battle Sage is more so against Hedgie because I put her in an immunity set and she can cleanse everybody. She also gives an increased attack on all allies, but the way she does this is she places the increased attack and then removes all debuffs, which is very, very good order because she's not worrying about proccing, as far as I'm aware, assuming it actually works like it says it's going to. She's not going to worry about proccing Tormund's freeze. So what you do is you have her go right before your nuker. She buffs them, strips them, well, removes all the debuffs from them, so then they can attack, they're free, good to go. However, she could be used, so the arena was her main focus. She could be used in the Nether Spider, except for the fact her A1 is an attacks all enemy. She does have the benefit of possibly being put in a stun set, throw her in Faction Wars, some good CC crowd control abilities there, but I don't need her in Faction Wars anymore. I got my High Elves. High Elves are typically a pretty easy faction for most people, because I mean, you have Arbiter, you have a lot of very good High Elf champions, so most people aren't struggling with that. But if you are, you could definitely put her in a stun set and make sense of her. But my account where it's at currently, I have absolutely no use for Battle Sage. And honestly, I've only used her for a few weeks at most total when I first leveled her up. And it was kind of like forcing her into a position that I think is just better achieved by champions like Sky Touched with the cleanse, block debuffs, and the revive. Not having a block debuffs on a cleanse kind of feels bad just because you cleanse them, and if you're going against a Tormund, then it kind of sucks the next turn. But against Hedgie, she does work. Hegemons places the block cooldowns. She works very well against that. So a champion who's very, very niche situations can do well there. But I think for a lot of counts, she's probably going to be a champion you use for a little while, maybe use for faction war specifically, and then you probably won't be showing her much love past that, to be honest. Now, the fifth champion I want to talk about before getting into just one other past it, which I guess would just be six. Might as well say that, Ty. Come on, what are you doing, dude? Making this more complicated than it should be. But the champion who I think is, for 99% of players, not going to be very useful. I've never seen him to be very useful in the arena. His main goal is in the arena. His kit is literally built around swift parry, ignoring basically. That is Gimbo. Now, Jinbo, the Dishonored dude, this guy is an interesting champion. Okay, so he's an attack champion, attack based, and his damage is all based on attack. He's a champion who's basically a support champion, but an attack champion. It doesn't hit very hard. Now, the one strategy that I do know can work with him is if you have a hard-hitting nuke champion, you have Gimbo go in and clean up the swift parry. However, the issue with that is there are so many ways to get around swift parry. You can have a Kymar, reset your champions, okay? Easy way to get around swift parry. You can have a Gerp Tuck. Anybody like that? What is the other champion? The Ogren Tribe chick. War Mama's daughter, I guess. That's what she looks like. Ugo, block debuffs. Okay? Block buffs, I mean. Those champions. Anybody who does block buffs can counter swift parry. So Gimbo doing the decrease or immune to decrease attack will ignore unkillable buffs when attacking under an increased attack buff. Honestly, he doesn't hit hard enough for me to enjoy using him, for me to want to use him, for me to make sense of using him. He does move through his abilities pretty quickly. If he has insane gear, maybe you could squeeze out a little bit of damage. Maybe you could justify using him. But outside of speed booster, debuffer, nuke champion, and Gimbo cleanup, there's not a whole lot of uses for him. I think majority of players are going to be able to build teams around other nuke champions that are going to be better. Block buffs, perfect option. And there's a lot of champions who do block buffs. So I think that's honestly just a better route than Gimbo. And he's one champion who I do regret 6-starring, and I will probably never use, except for Shadowkin Faction Wars. I can't say too much about that yet. Maybe all the champions there are decked out in swift parry gear, and he becomes super useful there, but I don't know. I mean, I think there's some stuff that needs to be changed with him. I think he's a champion who had a lot of promising stuff, but just doesn't hit hard enough to justify his role. If he could one-shot people fairly easily, then yeah, this would be a perfect ability, right? Because he could just one-shot, ignore unkillable, that'd be solid. I mean, that'd be pretty nasty, might even be overpowered, but he would get a lot more use. You don't really see him being used at all in the arena. Now, the last champion I want to talk about is Whisper. Now, Whisper is a champion who I think is kind of a mix, okay? When I 6-starred her, I had ideas of using her in the clan boss on a Bat Eater team with Deacon. I want to put her in retaliation gear because she gets so many extra turns. Now, Riprad, if you're watching this video, I'm sorry that I'm bashing your favorite champion in the game. She is a fun champion. She has a lot of potential. She has a lot of single target abilities. She can do decent against bosses, but honestly, I think most people are going to be better off with taking other champions to 6-star. She can do pretty good damage on a single target. One hit, very, very good. But everything she does is a single target ability. She doesn't do much for the rest of your team. She does do the decreased defense and weaken. And if I had a Mashald, my opinions on her for clan boss may be much different because I could build a clan boss team with Mashald, with Whisper, with Deacon. I think it would all come together very well. It'd be a very interesting team, but I don't have that right now. So Whisper's kind of on the border right now. She's a champion who I think can be fun. I think she can do very well in the clan boss, but at the current time, I'm not using her anywhere. I think she could possibly fit in some dungeons. If you build a team around her, I think she could pop off. But I think she's so, I guess, niche, specific uses. I think she's a little bit more difficult to make work and make sense of, okay? I feel like when I'm using her, that I'm almost forcing her to work. Kind of like good old Helior. Spend $200 on a champion, and you're sure to try to find a way to make him work. Though I still ain't found a way to make him work. The best use of him I've seen so far is him being the cover art of the Independence Day pack that was a few days ago. But that's enough about Helior. Maybe we'll talk about him in a legendary regrets video, right? So Whisper is a champion who's kind of on the list, but kind of not. I think she could be decent for some people if you're looking for a good single target hitter, but in majority of cases, at least for me, I don't really need her to be 6-starred. I don't have the champions to make sense of her. I think she needs a team built around her for her to really make sense, because in order for her to get this, she needs decreased defense and weaken. She doesn't apply decreased defense. So you need a champion who does decreased defense for her in order for her to work. Not super hard, but it is a condition that she does have to meet, or else a big part of her kit just isn't working. Now, if you have Relentless with her, she does go a lot. She takes a lot of extra turns. But those are my 5 and then kind of 6-star champions, epics that I regret taking to 6-star. Hopefully this video doesn't discourage you from taking any of those champions to 6-star who could possibly help you out, except for Gimbo. I don't know if he can help you out, but just keep that in mind. Keep those ideas in mind. Some of these champions are going to fall off faster than others. A lot of my epics I do still use. Honestly, this video I was kind of like, well, I don't even know who to pick, because a lot of my epics I still use. Rear Guard, Basilisk, both champions who are kind of meh, but I do use them. I use them in Doom Tower. Well, I use him in Doom Tower. I don't use her in Doom Tower. Maybe Rear Guard should have found a spot, but she's just so valuable in Faction Wars. I couldn't throw my girl Rear Guard in this list, unfortunately. But Armina, same thing. She's not 60 though, so I couldn't really fit her in. She's booked. I'm going to try her out soon. Maybe I end up regretting her, but that is what it is, guys. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comment section below, who did you take to 6-star and you kind of regret? If you could go back, who would you turn into chickens to make another champion 6-star? Thank you for watching, and don't forget to click one of the videos about to pop up, and I'll catch you in the next video.